We have a Coppola questions before we move on.
Hey, this movie, I feel like there are a lot of questions. So let's get into a couple of questions here. I'll kick it off with a kind of sequentially through the movie here. So no one heard the shot or the guy falling through the fence. I know we kind of talked about this, but like there's no neighbors that hear random gunshots coming from this guy's house, apparently all the time, because he was shooting bottles off the fence. He shot a random person in the middle of the night.
Maybe that's the explanation. Like they're used to hearing him shoot guns at all hours.
That's just Walt. I mean, it is the South. I mean,
I chalked it up to they own a large plot of land, and if there is anybody around, this dude is a nut job who's shooting guns all the time.
Also, like
I didn't used to.
From my experience in the South, people shoot guns all the time. Like everywhere you go, there's a stop sign with like 1,000 bullet holes in it, and like I mean, people are constantly shooting, and you'll just be sitting there like, oh, somebody must be shooting off fireworks here in the middle of the night.
Like at my wife's parents' house, they live out in the woods, out in rural. It's not like in a city or anything, and their neighbors are firing shotguns and stuff all the time. You just hear it. You don't even think anything of it. So. That's actually pretty believable to me. Yeah. Given how remote this location seemed to be. Like a single shot at night, you could have been shooting at a coyote or something.
Yeah. This one we kind of answered already, but how did Buddy know that Walter was ex-military? Like there was no clue whatsoever there.
They just say that he can tell, right? Like he knew
just tell by the way he carries
military.
himself and smokes that cigar like
tell
this.
By the way he's a broken down drunk. he's
got the Vietnam stash. Yeah, that's what they wore in Vietnam. What's that they called you Marines? If you say jarhead, I'll kill you.
I'll fucking kill you.
Just joking.
What was again? We also kind of answered this. What the hell was with the voodoo dolls? Like it never came up again. Was it supposed to represent the victims? That's the only thing that made sense to me is that it represents their victims in some way.
Yeah, but they never rally back to that. They never double back and say, well, yeah, okay, so she would make a doll for each victim that they brought in, or each girl they abducted and forced to have a kid.
These two, same thing. Bloody fence post, we kind of answered that one, but like he didn't notice it at all. It didn't get on his hand. He didn't wipe it on his shirt.
Yeah, he ain't very bright. So,
and wouldn't the cyanide have killed Walter if it got into his eyes? I mean,
yes.
Yeah, he would have died, right?
He would have died.
If it was actual cyanide, he would have died.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, like after the twist is revealed that they're kind of like Fancy and Walter are kind of working together in this weird way, like it kind of. That's when I was like, okay, so it wasn't actually cyanide, and I guess he was testing him to see if he would kill her. But that's one thing that bothered me too. Is what was the point? Like if he had tried to poison her. And she didn't die, like, what was the next move going to be?
I think it would have been, like, oh, you think you're a murderer, huh? And then he would have, like, killed him, or they would have tortured him, or
that's
something.
What I think. Give him an excuse to try and kill him for trying to kill his wife.
Yeah.
True. And then I was also kind of wondering, like, after the reveal about the women, like, were they going to then use Buddy as somebody to impregnate these women as well?
It's another question.
It's like it just doesn't like. There's so many open, like there's so many unanswered questions, and like the twist after twist that kind of don't make any sense.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, was she really gonna leave with him? Like, so you break down that scene. Like, she wants to go, and then Nic Cage is telling Buddy, like, ask her about the basement. Go to the basement. Was she actually going to leave with him? Because she gets mad at Nick for saying that stuff. Like, you just had to keep telling him about my secrets.
When, like, throughout, for some reason, I got the impression that Nic Cage actually, he wanted to die, and he wanted out of this situation, and he actually did want her dead so that he could end this whole craziness, because it seems that it was Fancy's idea to abduct these people and hold them and have them have sex with each other, I guess. I mean, so the guy that was drugged out in the room that was just some random store closet, for some reason, I guess they didn't have enough room down in the basement anymore. So they put him in there.
Question. That's another question I had. Why in there if you have this
why is he in there?
Basement.
Were they trying to nurse him back to health so that he could then have sex with the Japanese girl they just got downstairs? And
maybe he already had, because he had part of her clothes in his hand. Like he
did have her clothes. But then, same thing's like, where are all the kids? Like they mentioned that they
were forcing him to have children together.
Have children,
right?
But where are these kids? Like,
where are all the babies that these teenagers were having?
Yeah, because wouldn't they just adopt them and nobody would know any different? Like, you just say
that's
that
what I
they're
thought.
kids.
Like, when you just say they're adopted,
yeah,
that you had this family that you won.
I thought at a certain
it's
point,
almost as if that was added to the movie after the fact.
Could be
as a plot point that was just thrown in a voiceover at the very end of the movie,
which would make sense. Because did this bother you guys? So you have the two cops that go down in the basement first, right? And then it's like, okay, it's taking too long. So then the female detective goes down. And then it's taking too long, and so then funny talking Southern cop is about to go down before Nic Cage distracts him, and then the lady detective finds the room with the girl in it, but never passes by the other two cops, and they don't show up until she opens the door, and then they go back upstairs. I was like, well, where do those two? I was expecting like
I said, it's like a missile silo down there.
Yeah,
right.
I guess they just
but was she calling out to him? I can't remember.
No.
Or she just go down there silently? Why wasn't she calling out
silent
for him?
I don't know. At that part, I was like, well, what's the point of this? Like, you got two cops down there who disappeared. So I was expecting a third party to be down there and killing everybody.
Yeah.
To try to continue to protect the secret. And then she was going to end up killing whoever that person was and then find all these girls that were down there or these missing persons that were down there. But they just, once again, just dead ends.
Apparently not. They just let him go down there and find everything and spoil and ruin their whole plan.
Yeah. So that leads me to my next question is, why would they let Buddy go if they know that he'll immediately tell the cops what happened and lead them straight to that basement?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, why not?
Why do they even, one of my questions was, why do they even do all this to Buddy when now he can link, if he goes missing, presumably, his disappearance will be on them because he called his wife and his wife knows where he is. His company presumably knows where he went because he was sent there specifically to do this job. It's like the Wicker Man thing all over again. Like there's so many breadcrumbs that lead directly to Walt and Fancy that if anything happens to Buddy, they're immediately going to become suspicious. And apparently they don't do anything to avoid suspicion because the cops show up and they just let them wander down into their rape basement and don't do anything to try and stop them.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing.
So what was their plan?
That storage room where the guy was being drugged, Nicolas Cage kicked that door off the hinge like he had hit it with a freaking explosive, right? And then like the cops that door is supposed to be right next to the basement door. The cops don't even think, oh, this is kind of weird. Let me go in here and see what's going on. They're just focused on going to the basement. Yeah,
which makes sense because Buddy told him that's where all the craziness was going on.
Yeah, I guess true.
Is another reason why didn't they just kill Buddy? I mean, that would have solved all of these problems.
Right.
Yeah, they killed
Except
that
they
one
wouldn't because they, again, they would have led them to them because they would have known where Buddy was.
So why the hell did they bring Buddy in the first place? What the hell was the point of bringing him there?
I still don't understand why they brought him there.
My other Coppola question, another one of them is Walter says I specifically requested you to come by. So he's been watching him or tracking him or researching handymen in the area who have military histories, and then he cross-referenced that with their actual military history and found the one guy who had might have connected with him because he had survivor's guilt over an attack or something. But why?
It feels
he automatically and he hates Buddy right from the get-go. Like he doesn't have anything in common with him. He disrespects him. He doesn't like him at all. So why did he go to all this trouble? Why did Walt have all this criteria for having a handyman if he brings in Buddy who apparently meets this criteria but doesn't, and it doesn't actually matter for what the story ends up being in the end? Why did he go to all this elaborate trouble to hook somebody and bring him out to their house?
I mean, it's
When it
almost like they just
ultimately means nothing
completely
for the
forgot
story.
what they were writing halfway through the story. Like, I mean, there's so many like things that are set up and then not paid off, and then another thing will come and you'll be like, well, what about why did this happen? And it's kind of like, move on. Story's continuing.
Right.
So
Yeah, just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Do something crazy, Nick. Do something crazy. Officer, can you shoot my cat out of the tree? Perfect. Keep that in there. Yeah, the whole movie just kind of boils down to what was the plan the whole time? Because it doesn't really seem like there was one. It just seems like two
Right from the
deranged
beginning,
people.
I was wondering why they're even bothering to repair the fence the day before a hurricane hits, where
Yeah.
presumably all your shit's going to get wrecked anyway. You could at least wait a few days to figure out what else you need to repair.
I think
so
Fancy
what is
even
the
brings that
impetus to
up
have this
too.
happen right now?
maybe
Yeah, I
the
think even
idea
Fancy
was
brought
that they would have him come and repair the fence, and then he would somehow get killed in the storm or something. Like his truck would be off the side, and maybe he drowned or something like that. Maybe that was the idea, but again, it's like they could have just killed Buddy and saved themselves all of the trouble of those cops coming.
So then you got to ask, like, what is their end game? Like, what were they trying to get out of this elaborate plan?
Right.
Was it to have things pay off exactly as they did? They clearly didn't want to get caught,
Right.
but they do nothing to stop themselves from being caught. That was my biggest issue with the finale of the movie is the cops just show up and find everything, and that's it. Like that's the resolution. Is like,
Walter.
I guess, like,
Walter runs off. Fancy goes to a mental hospital. And then Walter comes back and finally gets his wish of death. I don't know. Like, I feel like if I were scoped in this, if I were the one writing the story, it would have been that Walter was behind this the whole time. Like, he was trying to get Buddy to kill his wife and then kill him and frame Buddy for their deaths, so that way he, like you said, he could have this release. Like he's tired of living this life of capturing these women, and he just has he doesn't have the courage to take his own life.
You could honestly just throw the whole capturing women shit out of it. The having babies thing, all of that could go away, and it could just be about these two lunatics who are having all this trouble with the two of them, and then Buddy just gets caught in the middle. That would have been a much better story than adding this element of weird stuff happening in the basement.
I mean, it feels like that was the story, and then they added the subplot of the basement kidnappings for no reason other than they needed some other nefarious stuff to go on. Like it's just the way that it's structured and the way that none of the stuff that Buddy and Fancy do seems to really hint at what they're doing in the basement or with these, like, I guess they sort of bring it up in dialogue, like, oh, there's other ways to have kids or whatever, but like it still doesn't equate like kidnapping teenagers and forcing them to have sex in your basement and then having babies that you apparently don't even raise yourself or anything.
And then you starve two children.
It really just felt like it was added.
They
at the
saved
end.
that whole chunk of the movie for like the last 20 minutes. So it's just like there was not enough time to like flesh out that whole idea at all. And it doesn't make any sense with anything else that's happening in this movie.
My other main big one was just like, what is the message of the movie? I know that movies don't always have to have messages. They can be purely for entertainment value. Like, I don't think Wicker Man had a deep message other than like just watching this, bizarre mystery murder happen.
Wicker Man had a point of like fanaticism leads down dangerous roads. This movie, I felt like the point of it.
There's a message of like, sexual frustration can lead to bad things. There's a theme of sexual frustration with all three of the main characters, but it's also wrapped up in like not appreciating what you have, but also like the system and the government doesn't care about veterans, and also like I don't know what else. Small town morals are important, but also bad because the detective is our small town, guy. And there was just so much going on. I don't know what the movie wanted me to take away from it.
I felt like the point was like, be thankful for the things that you have. Don't dwell on the past and like try and make the best of what you have in the moment. I think that was kind of the point, but It's hard to
if that's
say.
the point of it, then there's no reason to have the kidnapped teenagers in the basement of the house added in the third act. Like,
she wanted to be able to have kids, and this was her sick, weird way of being able to have kids because she didn't appreciate what she had, and neither did Walt. Walt didn't appreciate what he had, and if everybody in this movie would have just appreciated each other and had sex, most of the story wouldn't have happened.
I just had an overall feeling with this movie of like, why? Why is anything happening? What is the point? What am I supposed to be taking away?
Yeah,
right.
Why is it being presented to me in this manner?
I feel like that's why it got the rating that it did, was just everybody else had that same like, okay, well, what the hell was the point of all of that? I just don't get it.
Yeah.